were fairly laid back about this. They just wanted to check about it. So for that reason, I believe there was at least the equivalent of about £160,000 in that treasury. So Jesus,
so there's only 10% of would have fed them for that one meal. But so why did Jesus? Well, I'm asking the obvious question. But so why did Jesus choose to use this time to provide a miracle?
Well,
money?
I don't know why he chose that time. Money is just a vehicle. He could have chosen money. He could have multiplied the loaves and the fishes. He could have used all sorts of supernatural ways to feed the people. He chose to do a miracle through the disciples. Perhaps he wanted to teach them about the supernatural.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Just a thought here. Yeah. Using these analogies from the past and the way Jesus did things. Do you think he took an offering after he preached?
Never.
Oh,
not one single.
Where do you get that from?
Well, it doesn't say so, does it?
That's a good
Not
point.
once. He'd never sold a single thing. He never sold any books, tapes, or videos. He never took up an offering. He never did a miracle and said, here's the offering plate. He never had turnstiles at the Sermon on the Mount.
Did he have any databases? Did he take the names and addresses?
I don't think so. The point is, it's outstanding that he never, ever took up any money offering.
So there's never a time he's asked for money in his ministry?
No, and we've adopted that in our charity. We never sell anything. We never sell any books or tapes or videos or anything else. People can get our free books. Am I allowed to say where they can get it from?
Yes.
Well, our website is www.
Especially if they're free.
Yeah, they're free.
No,
they're free. You can't buy them. There's no facility to buy our material. www.finalfrontier.org.uk. I'll say it again. www.finalfrontier.org.uk. And on there are 12 subjects. You can read all this information and money, all free. But also, you can watch these movies about life after death, the Final Frontier movie, the Lazarus Phenomenon movie, and these two books. You can download them free. Beyond the Final Frontier and the Final Frontier, there are stories of nearly 60 people who've died and met Jesus Christ and either been to heaven or hell, and what they're like. Now, we don't sell them; we give them away. When we go to meetings, we give them away, but people all over the world can just download the e-books, internet books, and just, use them as tracts if they like. And they've got lots of pictures. Took me about a year to write them, but they're free. They're free.
But the reason you can do that, Dr. Richard, is what and why and how?
Well, the emphasis is on giving. You see, our emphasis on, if we do the giving, then God will do everything else. Jesus said, give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. So we concentrate on the giving, and God concentrates on giving back to us, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing. We're not poor. We were poor. When my income went down by 80%, we were in trouble. But the Lord paid off all the debts, and now we don't own a house. We rent a house. That's on purpose. God knew about this credit crisis. 2 years ago, we sold a house, and God said, don't buy another one. Just rent one for the time being.
I think renting is very prudent, because if you think you own a house, you don't. All you've got is a very large payment for the rest of your life if you're blessed. Otherwise, you'll end up passing it on to your kids, this huge debt. And today, it could be in negative equity to the tune of 30%. There's announced yesterday, another 15% fall in house market values, so a total of 30%, and we're paying for the privilege to the bank. So owning property is something, I think, is time's past, isn't it?
Right now, it's a bad time.
So
the world's going through an economic disaster. I don't know where it's all going to go, but it's really bad news, because the world system doesn't work. God's system does work. We proved it. God's system doesn't have booms and busts. It just God says, give and it shall be given unto you. Don't worry about everything else. Just concentrate on the giving.
Let me ask you this. What I liked about the time when God, if you like, was more in charge of man's affairs, and he had a people that represented him, the Jewish people, and he gave them laws and precepts and ways in which to live. And one of those provisions was an incredible one, which was the year of Jubilee, which every 50 years, all your debts were cancelled.
Yeah, perfect.
And it was. So it meant if somebody got into trouble during their lifetime, it meant that the kids were able to inherit all their property debt-free and start again. So you got your property back, even if it had been rented out meanwhile, etc., etc. But nevertheless, today there's very little chance of recovery when somebody's life is devastated, either through a death, especially of the breadwinner.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and or there is unseen circumstances. It could be the loss of the property through fire, the uninsured losses, other things that could just devastate that, and there's no way back. But God's ways are so much.
Well, they're wonderful.
They're fantastic testimonies.
We were in real bad. We were in trouble. They were about to repossess the house. We had Granny and Grandpa living in the house, and they were about to be homeless. And we've got 3 kids at university, and they were going to have to leave university. It was pretty bad news, actually. Yeah. But God is the answer to all these things. It says in Malachi 3, "Prove me." God said, we're actually invited to prove God in the area of finance. Prove me if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out on you a blessing you will not have room to receive. I don't know why, but not many churches talk about money. It's almost a sort of no-no subject. They want people to tithe, but they don't really talk about money in the way that Jesus talked about money. Jesus talked a lot about money, and Paul talked a great deal about money.
So what are the parallels today for when we see our organizations, whether they're television companies, whether they're ministries that are outwardly supporting people disadvantaged, like missionaries, or somebody who's helping to feed the poor in Guatemala or wherever it is. The problems in the world are, incredible, increasing problems. But the church is at home. So what are the parallels between, say, what would Jesus do if he was here today and head of one of those organizations? He's supposed to be head of all of them, by the way, but well, doesn't often get a look in.
I'll come to your question in a minute. I think there are 3 types of churches, because we've done a lot of travelling. The last 20 years we've been to 26 countries, and we've worked in an enormous number of churches, enormous. And I think there are 3 types of churches. The first church is a very, very good church. They don't have to be large. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And they preach tithing, and they publish an annual set of accounts, so everybody knows exactly where the money is all going. And then they do wonderful things with that money. They support missionaries. They preach. I'm thinking of a church in Barbados right now. We're members, actually. It's called People's Cathedral. They send through the airwaves. They send the gospel all over the Caribbean. They've got a little hospital there. They've got an old people's home. They've got an orphanage. They're really doing what Christians should be doing. That's type 1. That's a good type of church. There's another type of church, there are quite a lot of them in the United Kingdom, where people just don't read the Bible at all and don't really understand. It's a religious group who don't understand anything about Scripture and don't understand about money either. So they raise their money by, I'm not being rude here, but I am being rude, they raise their money by having jumble sales and things like that. God isn't really into jumble sales, I don't think. Don't think Jesus had any jumble sales. And there's a third type of church, which is not good news, is where that people are encouraged to give, but there's no accounts, no annual accounts, and nobody knows where that money is going. And sadly, a lot of the money is taken by the leaders of the church. Now, I don't want to say too much about this type of church, but they do exist, because I've come across them.
Really? That is sad.
Well, they do exist, yeah.
But have they no fear of the Lord?
Evidently not. We're all accountable. But we have to be honest. So when we give our money, we're very, very careful that there are no middlemen in the way that are going to take our money from where it actually is destined. I mean, we just come back from working in the Philippines in death row. It's the largest church in Asia, and there are 1,100 people on death row and 12,000 people in this maximum security prison. And there are 2 wonderful Philippine missionaries there. And they have lots and lots of family and wives and girlfriends, or just family and everything, who visit. So we've just given them some vehicles and a motorbike and computer and stuff, and we're able to do that because other people, freely give and help our charity. And it's all good news. So sometimes we help orphanages. Sometimes we help missionaries, and whatever it is. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about all these Christian ministries that just are asking for money all the time? Because I don't see that in the Scriptures. What do you think, Howard?
Well, that's a good point. I don't see it in Scripture too. I mean, I do have my problems